Good morning, class 6th students. I hope you all are fine and eager to join new session on YouTube video lessons amidst COVID-19. So welcome to English literature class. Begin Chapter 1 Words of Wonder, written by famous British writer Roald Dahl. The present chapter is an excerpt from his famous children's book Matilda. Dear students, the name itself suggests that the main character of this story is a girl. The title of the story, Words of Wonder, tells us about the strong reading desire of a tiny girl, Matilda, who is only 4 years old. Matilda is not an ordinary girl. When she was 1.5 years old, her speech was perfect like most grown ups. When most of the children play with toys and busy in watching television, Matilda, by the age of 3, had taught herself to read newspaper and magazines. When she was only 4 years old, she started hankering after books that led her to reach village library. Now we will see how is she able to satisfy her longing for the books. Matilda's brother Michael was a normal boy, but Matilda was something to make your eyes pop. By the age of 1.5, her speech was perfect and she knew as many words as most grown ups. The parents, instead of applauding her, called her a noisy chatterbox. Here we come to know that when Matilda was only 1.5 years old, she surprised everyone by speaking perfectly and fluently. She even knew many words like most grown ups. Her parents, instead praising Matilda, they called her chatterbox. So here the meaning of these words: make your eyes pops, it means amaze and surprise you. Applauding means praising, and chatterbox means a person who talks a lot. By the time she was 3, Matilda had taught herself to read by studying newspapers and magazines that lay around the house. At the age of 4, she could read fast and well, and she naturally began hankering after books. The only book in the household, the only book in the whole household was called Easy Cooking. And when Matilda had read this from cover to cover and learnt all the recipes by heart, she decided she wanted something more interesting. Here we find that Matilda herself learned to read by studying newspaper magazines which were laying around the house. By the age of 4, she was able to read fast and well. She also developed a strong desire to read books. She read the book Easy Cooking which was available in her house. She also learned all the recipes by heart and decided to get something more interesting. Now we can say which kind of girl is Matilda? She is Philomath. Philomath means the one who loves learning and studying. Here we find that Matilda loves learning and studying. Daddy, she said, do you think you could buy me a book? This line is very easy, you can understand. A book, he said. What do you want a book for? What's wrong with the telly, for heaven's sake? Now, when Matilda asked her father to buy a book for her, her father got angry and suggested her to watch television. Nearly every weekday afternoon, Matilda was left alone in the house. Her brother went to school, her father went to work, and her mother went out to play bingo 5 afternoons a week in a town 8 miles away. Now, every afternoon, Matilda was left alone in the house. Why? because her brother went to school, her father went to work, and her mother also went to play bingo, which is in a town, and the town is 8 miles away from her house. So, what did Matilda do one afternoon? Let us see. One afternoon, Matilda walked to the public library in the village all by herself. She introduces herself to the librarian, Mrs. Phelps. She asks if she might sit a while and read a book. Mrs. Phelps, slightly taken aback at the arrival of such a tiny girl unaccompanied by a parent, nevertheless told her she was very welcome. Now let us see what happened later. Matilda went to public library village by herself, means she was not accompanied by her parents. Seeing her alone in the library, the librarian, Mrs. Phelps, was shocked. Anyhow, she welcomed Matilda and asked her if she would like to sit and read a book. Where are the children's books, please? Matilda asked. They are over there on those lower shelves, Mrs. Phelps told her. Would you like me to find you a nice one with lots of picture in it? Why did Mrs. Phelps said this to Matilda? Because Matilda is a little girl, and this is the tendency of the children, that they love to read the books with lots of picture. So that is the reason Mrs. Phelps offered Matilda to help her in finding the book which has a lot of pictures. No, thank you, Matilda said. I am sure I can manage. From then on, every afternoon, as soon as her mother left, Matilda would toddle down to the library. The walk took only 10 minutes, and she sat by herself quietly for 2 glorious hours, devouring one book after another. Soon she had read every single children's book in that place. Now look at here. No, thank you, Matilda said. I am sure I can manage. Here we find Matilda is very confident child. And after this has become the routine habit for Matilda to go library every afternoon. It took only 10 minutes to reach library, and Matilda covered that distance by walking unsteadily. She sat there for 2 hours eagerly reading the books, and soon she had read every single children's book that was available in the library. Let me explain the words. Tele, it means informal for television. The word is informally used for television. Then bingo. Bingo is an indoor number game. Then miles, it means English unit of length. 1 mile is 1.6 kilometers. Toddle, it means walk unsteadily. Mrs. Phelps, who had been watching her with fascination, went over to her. Can I help you, Matilda? She asked. I was wondering what to read next, Matilda said. I have finished all the children's books. You mean you have looked at the pictures? Yes, but I have read the books too. I thought some were very poor, though, Matilda said. I liked The Secret Garden best of all. It was full of mystery. Mrs. Phelps was stunned. How old are you, Matilda? She asked. 4 years and 3 months, Matilda said. Let me explain the meaning of these words. Devouring, it means reading something eagerly. Fascination, it means wonder. Here it means wonder, okay? Then poor, here it means not good. Mrs. Phelps was more stunned than ever, but had the sense not to show it. What sort of a book would you like to read next? She asked. Matilda said, I would like a really famous one that grown ups read. Mrs. Phelps looked along the shelves. She didn't quite know what to bring out. How, she asked herself, does one choose a famous grown up book for a 4-year-old girl? Try this, she said at last. It's a very famous and very good book. If it's too long for you, just let me know and I will find something shorter and a bit easier. Let me explain these lines. When Mrs. Phelps came to know the age of Matilda, she was surprised and shocked, but she did not show her feelings to Matilda. Instead, she offered her help. She wanted to know choice of Matilda. It was unbelievable for Mrs. Phelps that how could anyone choose a grown-up book for a 4-year-old girl? At last, Mrs. Phelps found very famous and good book Great Expectation written by Charles Dickens, but she thought it could be too long for Matilda. Is it clear to you? Now let me continue the reading. Great Expectations, Matilda read, by Charles Dickens. I would love to try it. Over the next few afternoons, Matilda sat for hours in the big armchair at the far end of the room with the book on her lap. The book was too heavy for her to hold up, which meant she had to sit leaning forward in order to read. A strange sight it was, this tiny dark haired person sitting there with her feet nowhere near touching the floor, totally absorbed in the wonderful adventures of Pip and by the spell of magic that Dickens, the great storyteller, had woven with his words. The only movement from the reader was the lifting of the hand very now and then to turn over a page. Let me explain this paragraph. In this para, we find a strange sight of Matilda when she was totally absorbed in reading the book. The dark haired Matilda was sitting in the big armchair at the far end of the room carrying the book in her lap. The book was too heavy and she had to lean forward in order to read. Matilda was engrossed in the wonderful adventures of Pip and by the spell of magic that Dickens, the great storyteller, had woven with his words. The only frequent movement that we find in Matilda was her lifting of the hand to turn over the pages. Is it clear to you? Now let me continue the reading. During the first week of Matilda's visit, Mrs. Phelps had asked her, does your mother walk down every day? Now here, Mrs. Phelps wanted to know that how did this little girl come here every day? So she asked Matilda, does your mother walk you down every day? Now let us see what is the response of Matilda. What did she say? My mother goes to Aylesbury every afternoon to play bingo, Matilda had said. She doesn't know I come here. It means Matilda's mother does not know that she is coming here. She is coming to library. I think this much enough. This much is enough for today. You have to revise the text and also you have to write down the word meaning that I have explained during the explanation of the text. Okay, and I have also uploaded text images in class-wide notes. So till then, take care and have a nice time.